What's up, guys? Let's rank all the main jiu-jitsu submissions. Let's start off with our categories. We got the S, best tier. We got great, good, mid, and then we got the dog shit, dog water tier. The fuck you, don't use this submission tier. So first, I'm gonna talk about how I rank these. I'm not gonna rank these based on what could happen near the submission. I'm gonna rank it alone as the submission itself. I saw some other black belts doing this. This is the category, how I wanna categorize it. I want it to be the submission itself, not the things around the submission or transitions or things you can do with it or whatever. I want it to be the submission itself. It would be a totally different tier list if I did like overall, almost every submission could be used at some point, but I'm gonna go with the submission itself. So let's start off and let's start off strong. The Americana, dog shit, dog water. It's fucking trash. By the way, I'm a black belt, not that that fucking matters, but it's a dog shit submission. I never see other black belts get submitted with it. I never submit other black belts with it. I never tap to it because it's so easy to defend. If you freehand, if the other hand that's not being submitted is not being attacked and it's not pinned, you can just push on the tricep, push on the armpit, you can bridge into it, you can bridge away from it. Even if the hand is pinned, I still won't tap to it myself. I'll just expose mount or expose an armbar or expose my back. I'll do anything to not tap to this dumbass submission. It's so fucking terrible. I don't know how people tap to it so often. I guess people aren't taught the defense very early, but even if I have a huge, I'm 230, I'm a big dude and I'm young. I have big size advantage over people and I still don't tap high level people with it. Why? Because it's so easy to escape. All you have to do is like straighten your arm overhead and start to slide down. As they try to pull your elbow down towards your hip, you just extend your hip lower, trying to get your hip away and extend your arm straight up. And even if there is a size difference, it seems to just be that ultra heavy people at white belt are the only people that can submit people with this submission. So I think it's a terrible submission. Jesus, just gotta get that one out of the way to start off on a strong point. Toe hold, I used to think that this would have been like S tier or great because it's basically just a Kimora, and I love Kimoras, but people don't tap to it. I've cracked quite a few people's ankles with toe holds, not because I'm ripping it, I swear, it's not because I'm being an asshole. It's just, they don't tap to toe holds for some reason. But it is basically the Kimora of the foot. If you're not familiar with it, you grab the toes by the end of the lever, just like you would do grabbing the wrist down by the end of the lever of the arm. You do that with the leg and you reach over and you grab your own wrist for that key lock style. But one, they almost always have their other foot to like kick your hands and your elbow or your forearm. So it's like very easy to free themselves. And it always feels like anytime they do work, it's because they were just like ripped on the person. Sometimes it's like a knee thing or whatever. So honestly, I feel like it's going to end up in like the good or mid tier because it's people just don't tap at the higher levels. I'd probably put it at good, and I'll leave it there. Maybe it'll change later. But they just don't really tap at the highest level. People just let their shit break, and it's kind of easy to defend. So not the best. The heel hook in the gi for the picture. In the gi, S tier. Nah, it's S tier either way. Whether it was gi or no gi, heel hook, S tier. It is the fucking equalizer. You don't need to chase someone's back. There's so many entries. People aren't very dexterous. They don't have very much dexterity with their legs. So people are bad at defending ankle locks. They don't know, like heel hooks, they don't really know the defense, so it's really easy to put on. It's such an easy break to do once you figure out the mechanics of it, the breaking mechanics of the heel hook. Very easy to apply. Very, very, very small people, children, dwarves, whoever, can apply heel hooks on somebody larger than them and it'll work almost all the time. People won't tap to it and their shit will get torn, like it is what it is, but it is the equalizer. It's the main thing, like with like rear naked chokes and whatnot, where like a very small person could defeat a larger person, which is what jiu-jitsu is supposed to be. Now it's about steroids and autism, but overall, it's just a good submission. The Darce choke. Not everybody is gifted with long monkey arms like I am, so I can't just put this in S tier. I like the choke a lot. I think it's effective, but if you don't have long arms, if you're vertically impaired, or your partner is wide-necked and wide-lat, this is kind of a hard submission to do. I feel like if everybody had the same arm length and everyone was allowed to lock Darces up on everyone else, I'd probably put it in the great tier, just because like it's a way to counter shots. Like people turn towards you, you can do it from turtle, like you can do it violently. We see it in MMA, but like for the most part, because so many people can't apply the Darce choke on everybody else, whether it's because of them or they're a partner or opponent, whatever, And defending, it's kind of not that hard. It's gonna go in the good tier. I'm probably gonna put it above the tall holds. If everyone could do it though, I'd probably be ranking it differently, but because they can't, I can't put it any higher. We got the Ezekiel. Also, I didn't say this earlier, I'm gonna put all the chokes that are very similar to each other. There's like a billion chokes and there's a billion submissions in jiu-jitsu. A lot of the similar ones I'm gonna kind of rank right next to each other. So like the Ezekiel is gonna go with the punch choke, and like everything else that is like super close, so that's probably gonna be like very similar. So all the similar submissions are kind of be lumped together. So Ezekiel / punch choke. If we're in the gi, I'm thinking great for the Ezekiel. If we're in nogi, I'm thinking good. And some of you might be confused as to why I would even put the nogi one in good, but great YouTuber Carl Pravik, I mean, he's not a fucking YouTuber, he's a black belt. Great black belt who I've watched on YouTube, Carl Pravik, Silver Fox BJJ, go check him out if you haven't heard of him. He rolls so smooth. He's one of the people that I stole this concept from, where it's like, if I go for a choke in mount, and then you lift your arms up to defend the choke, as your arms come up, I can now slide to high mount, S mount, armbar, which was my goal in the first place. So rather than having to crush right through you, I just realized I'm doing the thing I said I wasn't gonna do, where I'm talking about it as a transitional piece. Okay, Ezekiel choke. It's good. It's easy to apply. You go inside the gi, you just extend in the neck. It's not that hard to do. Easy to apply, not that hard to do. Yeah, it's a good submission, nothing wrong with it. I really want to talk about transitions with it, but I said I wasn't going to. So we're gonna fucking move on. The head and arm choke. Oh my God, look at the picture they used for it. It's not going in mid, but look at the picture they used for this motherfucker's got his fingers in this guy's eye. Okay, this variation of the head and arm choke is S tier. That's crazy, bro. He's just digging his eye socket out. No, the head and arm choke, it honestly, it's gonna go like below the Ezekiel choke. If Ezekiel's in the gi, it's great. If it's no-gi, it's good. Actually, if it's no-gi, it's like dog water. Wait, I'm gonna have to rethink this. If it's gi, it's great. If it's no-gi, it's dog water. All right, we'll leave this there because that's a gi picture. Okay, head and arm choke, same problem with the Darce, same exact problem. It's hard to set up if you have small arms or if your partner is yoked. If your partner has the Dorito back, this is a very difficult submission to do. You can do everything right, and then they just pull that fucking elbow down, and they're out of the head and arm choke. So overall, not that great. If you're using the variation in this picture where you're digging their eyeball out, that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. But overall, because of the difference in people's ability to do that, and the ability to pin somebody from here, most people can just like turn towards you or turn away from the choke as the two main defenses anyways. And if there's a size difference between you and your opponent, it's kind of easy for them to do that. So it can't go any higher than this. North-South choke, I want to put in great because of people like Marcelo Garcia. I bet he would rank it in great or S, just like, you know, the guillotine or the rear naked choke, where it's like, it's isolating just the neck. So how can it not be a great submission, which is kind of why the Ezekiel is in great. But I feel like people are so bad at it, and the escapability of it, your ability to just turn towards their body, make space by putting your hand, like a little C-clamp inside the far bicep, and then rotating towards the person doing the choke. It's easy to escape. I say that, that's how I lost at Purple Belt Worlds. But it's an easy choke to escape, and it's kind of hard to apply, so it's gonna go like the top of good. I'm gonna put the Darce next to the head and arm choke here. The tall is gonna go to the bottom of good. But it's gonna go to the top of good. I'm not gonna put it in great because it's kind of difficult to finish. if you don't know the mechanics, and then the defense for it is kind of easy. Anaconda, it's going right next to the Darce choke. I love it again, but I got them long monkey arms, right? I got them knuckle dragging arms where I can just like, my hands, my fingertips like drape down to my knees. So I have long arms, so submissions like these are easy for me. But overall, as a whole, it's kind of like, eh. And again, I'm not talking about transitions, but it's really good transitionally. You can do the Anaconda, and then when people defend the Anaconda, pulling their elbow down, you can go to the Guillotine. Okay, I said I wasn't gonna do transitions. Fuck. All right, it's good, it's good, it's fine, it's fine. The wrist lock. All right, I'm not gonna lie. Fuck, maybe I should have done this tier list with transitions. With transitions, it's a lot higher. As a submission on its own, it's honestly mid or dog water. I've met so many people, I don't know how, my wrist bends like basically at 90 going forward and then like not even 90 going backwards. I tap really fast to wrist locks, but I've met so many people where I'm able to like touch the palm of their hand like to the base of their wrist and like they're just not tapping. And then I've met people vice versa who like will tap like forward, but they won't tap back. It's fucking crazy. Because so many people don't tap to it, it's kind of bad. And then if we're not talking transitionally, it's kind of bad. If we're talking transitionally, it's gonna be a lot higher because people move their arm and then you can free the underhook or then you can do whatever, arm bar, whatever. But because it's not, we're gonna put it at mid because people just don't be tapping to that. The straight arm bar, oh my gosh. Fucking dog shit. If you don't have a size advantage on your opponent or you're not a god at the submission like my coach, then this submission is so hard to hit. Anyone that's able to just roll their thumb is able to get out of this. You never see it at black belt level for a very easy reason, and that is you can just rotate your fucking arm. Your other arm is always free to help defend. Are we seeing similarities with the Americana? Yes, we are, because it's very similar in the sense that like, even if you pin the arm, what's gonna happen is you're just gonna roll your elbow. The only variation of this submission that I use is kind of like, I like pirate crunch under people's shoulder and then I just like leave my hand there and I straighten my other arm punching it. And even then, it works, but it's not that great and it kind of only works because I'm a big dude. And the only variation of this that really works on me was the variation that my coach used to do where he like pinned one of my biceps with his shin and he took his other shin like right across my chin or my face, and then his head and his chest and then both of his arms are all collecting my wrist. But like he committed his entire body just to my wrist, just to hold the wrist so he could get the straight arm bar, and he can make it work, but you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. If it fails, now you're like way over the top, you're gonna get swept. There's a lot of reasons, but mainly because it hardly ever works at the highest level, which is why it's not a very good submission. And it's not good if you're a smaller person versus a bigger person. Kind of just these like arm for arm submissions are like not that great against somebody stronger than you, so it's going in the dog shit, dog water category. Armbar, S tier, woo, armbars. Armbars are fucking great, you can do them from everywhere. Small people do them to bigger people all the time. I get caught when I'm being lazy against more technical people where I reach for their collar to try to do big people shit, where I just try to crush them and use my weight and bully them. And then all of a sudden their legs are in my face and I'm arm barring them. It's like one of the staples of jiu-jitsu, like it's the counter to the fucking rape choke. Someone's got their hands on your throat, and the only way for me to put my hands on your throat is to extend my elbows, which is ding, 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 armbar territory. So armbar is dope. You can do it from the mount, from back, from guard, from self-defense, for whatever reason. Great submission, very nice. The loop choke, the one used in this picture, I would put it like mid or fucking dog water. I don't like the loop choke where you dive under the person because so many people attempt it and then they like lose it, now they're on their back and it's stupid. The loop choke overall as a submission is actually pretty great though. It works at the highest level. It sets stuff up for other transitions. But overall, it's a very aggressive choke that works. Basically, most of the chokes that are just you isolating the person's neck is really good because it attacks their consciousness, so it doesn't really matter if they tap or not. And smaller people can, for the most part, always do them to people larger than them, regardless of the size or strength difference. So loop chokes are great, but I don't like the variation in the picture. I don't like diving underneath for that like fireman style one, but it's fine. The Omoplata, you know where this is going. That's right, in the fucking dog water tier. This sub, as a sub, is so fucking bad. Again, if we're talking transitions, it's not that bad. It happens a lot. Unless you're like a very specific select few people, like Andrew Wiltsey, Bernardo Faria and Clark Gracie, like the Omoplata is not a good submission as a submission by itself. There's also some weird stuff that Richie Martinez does and whatnot, where they're like variations of it, like hooking under the far shoulder and like catching the far arm and whatnot. Like if you're very, very good and niche at the Omoplata, you can make it work as a submission, but like overall as a submission, it's so fucking bad. It's so easy to just forward roll out of this. It's so easy to just clear the person's hand off your hip and just roll. Even when people have my hip, sometimes I can just like sacrifice a little bit of athleticism and pike up onto my shoulders, my tiptoes, and I can still force the forward roll. So overall, I fucking hate this submission. I've talked to many people about it, where I've had like seminars about how I hate this submission to my teammates, about how it's just like, how are you gonna tap someone with, like, even people that are like not that good, if they're bigger than you, really hard to break them down. There's a lot of stuff about the submission that I just don't like as a submission by itself. As a transitional piece, there's room to talk, but as a submission alone, it's super, super bad. Calf slice / bicep slice, I think they're good. I think they're great if your opponent doesn't know them. I think the breaks come on kind of quick, so you gotta be careful. But mainly the piece of it that is like so attractive is the fact that like if your opponent doesn't know it's coming on and you can surprise them with it, then the submission works more often than not. And this one, the calf slicer from the truck especially, works very well. We saw what's his name beat Joseph Chen at the CJI because he just stepped in on that calf slicer, that knee compression version of that calf slicer. So it's a really good submission. Borderline great. You see people like Gio Martinez have a lot of success with it. Honestly, I think I'm probably going to put it at the top of the good category because bicep slicers are going to be paired with it, and those are a little harder to do against bigger people. So top of the good category, but it's a really good submission. I like the calf and bicep slicer, super good. Triangle choke. Triangle, the only reason that I can't place triangle in S tier, which I want to super fucking bad, because it's a super staple of jiu-jitsu, works at every level, is because some people have a size difference between them and their partner, and it's like physiologically impossible for very, very small children to do it to very, very large men, because just the size difference. They could still armbar them, they could still choke them, but they can't triangle choke them in the perfect triangle way just because of size difference. So just because of leg length and because of the size of your partner's, the capability of the size of your partner's like neck, shoulders, and head, it's gonna go in the great, but it's gonna go at the top of the great because it deserves to be an S, but it can't be just because of the whole, some people won't be able to lock it up against other people. But that's the only caveat to that. Otherwise, goated submission. Fucking love the triangle choke. Rear naked choke, S tier, top of S tier, highest submission percentage of any submission, especially if you combine that with like collar chokes, because you know the collar choke is more of, I don't know why the picture shows them in the gi doing this. The collar choke and every variation of the collar choke off the back is basically the same variation as the rear naked choke. Like the bow and arrow is basically the rear naked, and so is the double lapel collar choke from the back and all that stuff. Choking from the back, goated S tier, it's the best. Even if they don't tap, they go unconscious. A smaller person can get on the bigger person's back. The bigger person in a real fight can't punch them. In jiu-jitsu, they can't submit them, other than that dumbass crossed ankle lock bullshit. But goated submission, rear naked choke, best of the best. I think I'd probably order it like this, where it goes rear naked choke, armbar, heel hook. But all of those fucking goated. Oh, speaking of bow and arrow, again, there shouldn't even be a picture for the bow and arrow, but I'll put it right there next to rear naked. It's the same. It's goated. S tier, fucking mint. Super good. Straight ankle lock. Straight ankle, it's kind of the same. Well, the straight ankle is pretty great. Mainly people's lack of awareness that it exists makes it better than it is, kind of. Like people's lack of defense for it, people's lack of awareness that it exists, especially at the lower levels. But I mean, even at the higher levels, sometimes people just get caught, and it's easy to apply. Smaller people can do it. There's a lot of variations, and you do have to learn the finishing mechanics, and you do have to learn to be powerful to apply the braking pressure to it. But straight ankle locks, I think they're great. I think There's a lot of different ways to finish it. There's a lot of leg entanglements that exist. There's a lot of different leg entanglements you can get into and do a straight ankle. There's so many variations. And again, same as the heel hook, or at least same principle with the, people have not a lot of dexterity with their feet and their legs. So even if they are strong, they're usually not very like flexible and mobile in the leg. It ends up being, they can move a tiny bit, and then after that tiny bit, it gives, and then the ankle goes. So I think straight ankle lock, great. Guillotine, just like all the other neck isolation ones, except for the north-south choke, I'm going with S tier. Guillotine is so good. #1 counter to wrestlers, fucking throw up that guillotine. I'm putting guillotine and Armin guillotine in the same category. I know Armin's harder to finish, whatever, but counter to the wrestlers, counter to the takedown, isolates the neck, it attacks consciousness, smaller people can do it, it's got all those factors, all those key details for wanting to be in the S tier, and it deserves to be. Super great. Kimora, even though I want to put this in S tier because I use it all the time and I love the submission. Now let me say this. I know there's a lot of people out there that think that the Kimora is a big person submitter, or big person submission. You're right. But I think if you learn how to use, just like in this picture, they stepped over the head. I think if you get good at that detail, putting your leg over the head and then activating the leg pressing muscles in the body, this submission could become S tier for you. There's variations. I have a video on it. I probably need to redo the video because it was like the first one. It looks like crap. But there's a video that I did on it talking about how like I like to like leg press people's hip. So you can go this way and step over the head. You can fall the other direction and put your foot on their hip and like leg press their arm out and then put it behind their back. So I think the Kimora is a great submission, even if you're smaller. But I think I have to put it in the good category just because there is a point where somebody's one arm is just stronger than your two, even if you have a really good grip and all that. But again, if you find that key lock grip, that figure 4 grip, boom, once you make the connection, if you can find your foot on someone's hip, you can leg press their hand out from their torso. Once you get it behind the back, it's breaking time and it's good to go. It's a really, really good submission. Like I said, if you figure out those good details on it, it could become S tier for you. But overall as a submission, I'd probably put it at the top of good just because some people are super fucking strong and it's really hard to disconnect their hands and whatnot. But if you find a good way to use your legs, it becomes very, very good, very strong. This just shows the, the typical lapel choke, collar choke from the back. Same thing, like whether it's the bow and arrow, the lapel choke with the hand behind the head, like they're all going in the same category. It's great, goated, chokes people's consciousness, smaller person, all that jazz. Knee bar. I would put knee bar in S tier with the arm bar, but it is hard to get to in comparison to like heel hooks. I'd probably put it like the top of great. I think knee bars are a great submission. I think they're super fucking good. I think, I feel like I need to just delete the mid category and just put wrist locks down in dog water at the bottom of good, because nothing else is going in mid, I don't think. Well, we'll see about that. But I think knee bars are harder to set up than heel hooks are. It's harder to get people's legs straight. That one is a little bit more of like the whole like, dang, I've even had people tell this to me like, oh man, like your leg is so strong that it's hard to straighten your leg out. And I'm like, thanks bro. But it's not a compliment. He just didn't know how to finish a knee bar and I was doing a bad defense. But I think it's just harder to straighten the leg. Once it's straight and you're in the position, it's a great submission, but it's a little harder to get it than like heel hooks are. But still a great submission, super good. Collar choke, like cross collar, honestly, like as a white belt, man, this submission's dog water. As a fucking white belt, this submission's so bad. Hodger, I think Hodger said it, and I think I totally agree with him. Like, he didn't get good at cross collar chokes until black belt, and he's the king of cross collar chokes, which is crazy. But I think as you progress, it becomes really, really good, even into the great category. I think from guard, it's also different. I think in guard, it's mid. And again, we're not talking about transitionals. If we were talking about that, it'd be ranked differently. I think in closed guard, it's mid. I think from mount, it's good or even great from mount. Once you get to the level where you're submitting people at your skill level, like at black belt type of thing, if you can submit other black belts with the collar choke, that's when it like enters into that great category. I think it should go in the good category just because this is like an all skill level thing. It's hard for people to, it's hard to teach, it's hard to get new people to do. They always flare their elbows, like there's so many little intricacies with how it works, and because it takes so long to master, I think it should go in the good category, probably like in the middle of the good category near the north-south choke and all that stuff. The Smother choke, goated, top of S tier. Smother, this is coming from an ultra heavy, from one ultra heavy to every small person. The fucking Smother's the bet now. By itself, the Smother actually sucks. Again, not talking transitionally, the Smother kind of sucks. It's kind of mean. You do have to be a little large to do it. It is becoming super popular to get people to move and get a reaction out of people, to elicit a reaction, and then you can dig your double unders and walk to high mount and take their back or armbar, whatever. But again, not transitionally, it's not a good submission. Like, and no one likes having big old man titties in their face. So, well, man titties in the face S, but I think it's gonna go in mid as a submission by itself. It's definitely very mid. And also the buggy choke. Buggy is also going mid, bottom of mid, because it's super flexibly dependent. It's like the triangle choke in the sense of you have to be flexible and your partner needs to also not be big at the same time. And it's like, bro, it's also done from bottom side control, which is a position where you should be focusing on getting out. We saw people get slammed unconscious at ADCC because they locked up a buggy, and slamming is allowed in ACC. A lot of these other submissions, like triangle chokes, you can dig under the leg, you can prevent slams one way or another while you're in a submission. The buggy, you're in for the ride. And again, from bottom side control, you should be focusing on escaping, not a position that you should be looking for submissions. And it's size dependent and flexible dependent and all that shit. So it's going to the bottom mid. Fuck you if you disagree. Okay, that's gonna be it for our tier list. I would have done a lot of other submissions, but all of them, so many of them are so close. I could show the Bravo choke, which is basically the Darce choke with one hand in the gi. It's like very niche. I could show the Omoplata, but it's like very niche. So I don't want to go through all the niche submissions that exist out there because there's like an infinite number of them, and then people would be messaging me like, hey, I saw this new submission, like you should add it to your list. And it's like, all right, whatever. If you guys like this and you want to see more, let me know in the comments. If you really want me to do all the other niche submissions, I will, but a lot of them are gonna be very similar. The second I see it, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's just like this one. Boom, dog water, or whatever rank it's supposed to be in. But for the most part, if you see the common trend, if you can get behind your partner, hit up a choke, it's goated. If you can isolate the neck, it's goated. It's still great with the Ezekiel, and it's still great with the north-south choke. That should be a little higher. Arguably in the great category, but it's kind of hard to finish. But as a submission, it's still really good, but hard to finish. But if you can isolate the neck and get behind people, it's going to be S tier. If you can isolate the neck in front of them, it's still going to be S tier. Arm bars, heel hooks, also S tier. And then down here in dog water, we got the Americana, straight armbar, and Omoplata. Fucking hate those submissions. If y'all want me to do a tier list, that's the same thing with submissions, but you want me to rank it based on how you can transition, everything's an S tier. Yay. Now, it wouldn't all be an S tier, but a lot of these would be changed positions if I was allowed to incorporate, like, it's good for a transitional piece. It's good to force a reaction so that we can do stuff, which is a lot of what jiu-jitsu is. But I just wanted to rank these as submissions, like, on their own. So here it is. If y'all liked it, leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that good shit. And as always, till next time, let's get it.